Howdy there, SilverMongoose here, back with part 2 of my final quarter of this Year of Wii challenge, and there's a few unique games in here near the end, but the beginning is going to be kind of more mainstream stuff. The previous video I did for this quarter was more unique, like WiiWare games and some motion control games, so if you missed that, feel free to check that out. Let's get into it. So I'm going to start off here with No More Heroes 2. And I'm going to begin this by saying I enjoyed this game because I have lots of criticisms. The first No More Heroes was pretty clunky at times and can feel really empty. You know, it was rough around the edges, but I thought it was like, this is a great proof of concept for what could be done and what could be an awesome series. So I had really high hopes for No More Heroes 2. That would be more polished and there'd be more content. But I found that that wasn't really the case. I could be wrong because I played the first No More Heroes like probably 10 years ago, but I don't know, maybe this is just how all Suda 51 games are. I did see a few improvements, but overall it still felt unpolished and lacking content. There's only a few beam katanas to buy, like maybe 2 or 3, and then there's nothing else really meaningful to do with your money. You can play a couple mini games or just buy clothes, which are just for aesthetics. I was wanting kind of more weapons or more unique wrestling moves, or even like clothes or like weapon parts that you could customize. Something that would, really upgrade Travis or make a difference inside the game. But I am, I guess, jumping ahead of myself. If you don't know what No More Heroes is, you're basically this otaku, self-centered jerk who has basically a lightsaber, and you go around and kill people for money, and you're basically trying to rise through the ranks of bounty hunters or mercenaries by killing them to become the number one. It's very over the top, it's very Japanese, it's very off the wall, very cheeky, definitely more on the immature slant of things, so there's potty humor, you save by sitting on the toilet, that sort of thing. But if you enjoyed No More Heroes 1, you're probably going to enjoy No More Heroes 2. What makes this game different than the first one is that they cut out the entire overworld and basically made it where you select the little levels. Mostly you're just selecting mini-games which you can play. Most of them are designed to look like 8-bit games. Some of them look like they could literally be an NES game, just the ROMs ripped straight from it. And other ones are obviously newer games. They range from being very fun and awesome to and you're playing these to make money, but like I said, there's not much of an incentive to make a lot of money inside the game, so you're basically just playing the games you like for fun. You can also play shoot 'em up on your TV, or you can help your cat lose weight by playing little games with it. And they did actually add a couple sections where you play other characters, but I didn't think they were very good. One character has a jump, which feels very heavy, and the physics weren't right. So, you're playing this badass ninja, essentially, and you just feel clunky and heavy, and it was more annoying than fun. And some of the bosses were great, while others just made me feel like I was playing a retro game where you essentially have to trick the boss and slowly get their health down and just wait until it's over. And the story was told through these sort of flashback, like vignettes, or maybe they're flash forwards, I don't really remember. But there's essentially just a woman who sits there and talks in metaphors and smokes, and I had no idea what she was talking about or what was going on. I found it an extremely ineffective literary device. And one thing that just drove me crazy was that the game would pause automatically if it decided that your batteries were low. And for some reason, the game constantly thought my batteries were low. Maybe because I use rechargeable batteries, but I've been playing Wii with rechargeable batteries since it came out. And occasionally there would be a game that, they have a little flashing icon in the bottom that tells you that your battery's going low or something. But for this game, it would just pause. So I had to go out and buy new batteries specifically to play this game, which is just super annoying. Now, all of that being said, I still had a lot of fun playing this game. I really enjoyed my time with it. It's still fun to slice through people and perform suplexes on them and watch people burst into money and listen to cheesy dialogue and experience some infantile humor. And if you are kind of turned off by motion controls, you can actually use a classic controller to play this game, which is cool. I would use the classic controller to play the mini games, and then just whenever I was done playing the mini games, unplug the classic controller, plug in the nunchuck, and then go back to motion controls for the game itself. So there's basically no issue with just switching controllers mid-play. You don't have to go to a menu or anything, just plug in one controller, unplug it, plug in the next one. It's super easy, and I really appreciate that about this game. So overall, this is still rough around the edges and it has its issues, but I still feel like No More Heroes is still something that's still pretty unique, and the second game is, I would say, worth checking out. One of the best-selling Wii games, New Super Mario Bros. Wii. This is a side-scrolling Mario game where you can play up to 4 players. When this came out, back in the day, I only played it once or twice, like at a party or something, and I had no desire to play it again. I felt as though the controls just felt a bit off, the art style was clinical, the level design was... It just felt uninspired. It felt like a really good Mario fan game without any of the real, Mario magic, you know? I didn't feel like this was made by the same team. There was just nothing that really grabbed me about it. So I thought, okay, it's been like a decade since I played that. I'm going to give it a solid go from the beginning. I played with a sibling, and I gotta say, I feel exactly the same way. You know, we played through about halfway through the game. Now, because the game is 2D, when you're playing in multiplayer, you end up bumping into each other a lot. And to accommodate this, the levels are kind of bigger, and maybe that's why it kind of doesn't really feel right. And I also found that when it came to the tougher levels, I was usually just swapping off with the other player to kind of power through it. And what I mean by that is you can press a button to bubble and basically just follow your character. So if I was having trouble in an area, I would just bubble and then the other player would continue through. Or if, it looked like they were about to die, then I would come back. So we're kind of like tricking the game to kind of power through the levels. And maybe I wouldn't be doing that if I enjoyed the game overall. But it's, I don't know, we just ended up kind of doing that. And it's not that multiplayer Mario can't work. I absolutely love Super Mario 3D World. It's not everybody's favorite, but I bought it day one on the Wii U, and I totally enjoy playing that in single player, multiplayer. It doesn't matter how many people are playing. I found it was always fun, and that's just not the case with New Super Mario Bros. Wii. It just, I don't know. I get why people like it, but it's just blah, you know? One thing I will say is that this game does have the penguin power-up. I really like the penguin power-up. I don't know, that's probably my favorite part of the game, but otherwise I don't have a lot of desire to play this again. Do I recommend this? I don't know, it's Mario. If you're looking at the screen and it looks like fun, then you know that this is for you. It did sell like 30 million units or something worldwide, so if you're watching this and you like the Wii, you probably have this game already. Another Nintendo venture is Big Brain Academy Wii Degree. This is one of those touch generation games where they kind of pretend that they can improve your hand-eye coordination and memory and all that kind of stuff by playing mini-games and puzzles. This one has about 15 mini-games, I think, so not a lot, and they involve like math and visual puzzles and logic and that sort of stuff. There's some interesting ones, like one where it'll show you pictures of 4 random things, like a ladybug and a kiwi and the moon and a grain of rice, and they'll say arrange these from like largest to smallest, like that sort of stuff. And a few of the multiplayer modes are pretty fun, like you can race or work competitively or work together. But what's annoying about the multiplayer mode is because it's one of those games that it wants to track your progress and let you know that you're getting smarter or your Wii Fit age is getting younger, that sort of stuff. It does require you to have a profile. So if you want it to play, you have to make a character and then go through a test that'll initially assess you so they can track your progress. So it's not something where, Grandma, Grandpa, and Uncle Jimmy come over and you say, hey, let's all sit down and play this multiplayer game. It's not like Wii Sports or Wii Play, that sort of stuff. One of the things that was kind of interesting is that I think the characters are speaking in Animalese, which is like the Animal Crossing language, sort of random, but neat. Overall, I can't really recommend this game. There's not much replayability. I did enjoy what I played, But this was a budget game, and a short budget game at that. I think you can essentially see the entire game in like 30 minutes. So this is unfortunately, this is a pass. This was another game that I started for the spooky season, and that is Monster Lab. This is a game that I'm sure you've probably seen on the shelf at a game store for years and did not buy it. I know I did. I saw it for years and years, and I was like, what is this? What is this nonsense? It doesn't look very good. But I was watching a video where someone was saying it was unique and they had fun with it. So I decided to pick it up. It's not expensive. This is, one of those like $5 games. It is definitely unique, where you play like a Dr. Frankenstein type, where you create a monster. So you build yourself a monster, and then you go around a map and have turn-based one-on-one battles with other monsters. So you each select a body part on the other monster that you want to attack, or a type of attack. So am I going to do a low kick, or am I going to do an electrical shock, that sort of stuff. Or you could dodge to recharge some of your energy, or you could block. And basically you want to incapacitate the other monster by breaking off all their body parts or killing them. And then you can take some of those body parts, go back to the lab and add them to your monster and heal them. So despite starting this in early October, life kind of got crazy, and I only ended up playing a couple hours of this before Halloween hit, like maybe 2 or 3 hours. I enjoyed what I played, but I could tell that there was probably a lot more depth if I kept going. I enjoyed it enough that I would like to pick this up again someday. I can't really recommend it or not recommend it, because I don't think I've played it enough, but what I can say is that it's definitely unique, and maybe it's worth checking out just based on that alone. It's not expensive, so why not give it a shot? Mystery Case Files: The Malgrave Incident. First off, published by Nintendo, which was kind of random and weird, but it's one of these companies that kind of makes these I Spy games for computers, and I think that if I had to guess, their target audience is probably the older generation, I would say. It's kind of like Myst and the I Spy books had a baby. And it also, like, oddly, whenever I was playing it, it kind of felt like, when games used to come in cereal boxes? It kind of felt like that, and I don't mean that in a bad way. So you're this character who's investigating this island, and you're going through in a first-person mode, which was kind of cool. I felt like it kind of reminded me of, like, Resident Evil, when you're just, like, walking through doors, and they have that little animation. And you find these sections that you have to collect this magic dust. So to do that, you have to basically enter an I Spy mode, where you're looking for hidden items, and you can zoom in and out, and it'll say something like, oh, find 3 fish and find an old book and that sort of stuff. And when you find those, you'll get this magic dust that allows you to continue farther, or you'll get an item like a pair of garden shears that allows you to cut through bushes, that sort of stuff. So you might think that, this was made for kids, and it definitely feels that way at the beginning of the game. But as the island opens up, it gets really complicated and the puzzles are quite difficult. And also, sometimes the language that they use, like when they want you to find something, they'll say like, oh, find a Chesterfield, which is like, okay, well, not a lot of 5-year-olds or 8-year-olds are going to know what a Chesterfield is, or find France. And what they mean by that is they'll be like a rusty car, and the whole of rust will be like in the shape of France, like stuff like that, which is just like, I don't know how many kids would would actually get these. What's good is that if you are playing one of the I Spy games and you can't find something, there is a kind of a hint section. And if you're in the first person world and there's a really difficult puzzle you can't bypass, after a certain amount of time, they'll just be like, hey, do you want to just pass this? and they'll just let you bypass it, which I did have to do once because one of the puzzles I could not get. So what I will say is that at first glance, it looks like it's for kids. It's definitely aimed at a more casual audience, but that doesn't mean that it's a cash-in. The graphics aren't great, but like the game works well, and I feel like it's well made. And it has nice little touches in the dialogue, or like whenever you use the pause screen, it'll show you like a top-down view, which I thought was an interesting touch. Like to me, it feels like people actually put some effort into this. They actually cared about it. To me, it does not feel like a cheap cash-in. Like, I think most, like, veteran players would look at this and kind of scoff and be like, oh, this is just boring shovelware. But this is, like, one of the games this year that I found myself actually wanting to go back and play regularly. Like, every few nights, I'd be like, oh, I can't wait to play. I can't wait to play Malgrave Incident again. So, I don't know. Whenever I'm recommending games, I'm just like, well, look at the screen. If this looks like it's for you, then maybe it is. But I really enjoy my time with it, and I think if you're into giving these games kind of more casual games a go, I would check it out. I think that the company that made this makes or still makes these kinds of games on your PC, and I think that there's free demos that you can try. So if you're on the fence about the Malgrave Incident, maybe try one of their other games on PC and one of the demos and see if you like that. Dawn of Discovery was another real surprise. I believe it's called Anno, Create a New World outside of North America. It's a spin-off of a long-running Anno series, which I've never heard of before, but they've been making them for decades. It's a city-building strategy game with a pretty surprising amount of depth on the Wii, in my opinion. I haven't really played city-building games since, like, my Age of Empire days, so I can't say how much this game compares to others or more modern games in this genre, but I found it a lot of fun. There's a pretty long campaign or story. I don't know how long exactly, but I feel like it's probably between like 15 and 25 hours. Whenever the Wii was announced, I thought this is going to be great for three things: for first-person shooters, for horror games, and for strategy games, which, if you've ever tried to play computer games put on consoles like Command & Conquer or StarCraft, they don't work as well because you don't have like a mouse to play. But the Wii pointer controls kind of alleviates that. And this game uses it very well. You can zoom in and out and move around. And I thought it was a lot of fun to actually zoom in because you can zoom in and like watch the characters like move from houses to houses. It's a cute art style. It's basic, but it is clean. And I enjoyed how it looked. So like other city-building strategy games, you're gathering resources and building towns, you're trading with other countries and neighbors. It's more about building and expanding rather than battling, but there are some warlike elements. You have to worry about pirates if you're sailing. So maybe, you have to get some soldiers to fight off pirates, that sort of thing, but you're not really... at least as far as I got, you're not waging war against people like you would in something like StarCraft or Age of Empires or something like that. This is more, I guess, kind of like SimCity than those things. You start your citizens at a lower class, so I don't remember the names, but the peasant class, I suppose. And what you want to do is improve their quality of life so they can go up in class. So I think there's about 5 classes, and each class of resident you tax, and you can tax each separately. So there's this interesting dynamic of you want to get money from people, but if you tax them too highly, then they become upset. Or if something happens like a fire breaks out because you didn't build enough firefighters, then people will be disappointed and they won't be happy with the amount of tax that they're paying. So you have to lower their taxes to make them happy for a while, then you can raise them again. So that's not something I've had to do in a game before, is individually tax different classes, but it was surprisingly fun. So there's sailing and treasure to find and pirates to fight off, and you have to prepare for disasters by building buildings with pest control. You're trying to make people happy by creating bathhouses to keep them clean and schools to keep them educated and that sort of stuff. Like I said, this is a genre I haven't really played a lot of in many, many, many years, but I had a lot of fun with this. It worked really well on the Wii. I was playing it on a friend's big screen TV, and I had lots of fun, and I think it's definitely worth checking out. Obscure the Aftermath is a game that I, again, started for the spooky month in October, and life got away from me, and I didn't get very far, but I still think it's worth talking about. On other systems, like on Steam, you can play this. I believe it's called Obscure 2, but on the Wii, it's called Obscure the Aftermath. So it's a survival horror game, which there are not many of them on the Wii, and it takes place in the early 2000s in a college dorm. It opens with students playing sports and hopeful rock music plays in the background as the camera follows a leaf or something. It really captures this cheesy off to college feeling. I don't know if it's ironic or intentional or serious, I don't know. Not to spoil too much of the story, but essentially the students are like experimenting with these flowers, and that eventually leads to everything, you know, going to heck with monsters showing up and that sort of stuff, and you have to, you know, fight them off and find hidden keys, you know, that sort of stuff. But what's really cool about it is that you can play 2-player. So you can have somebody just pop in and want to join you. You don't have to start the game saying this is going to be 2-player only, and then you have to play 2-player. Like, they can drop in and out as they wish, which is great. But if they're not there, then you have a computer player. And I found that with a friend, this game was actually a lot of fun. It's definitely cheesy, it's definitely clunky, and it has issues like a lot of survival horror games. It's far from perfect, but I found that it was still fun with 2 players. It was kind of like Resident Evil 5, where if you play 2 players, it's a lot of fun. But if you have just a computer player on your team, it's way more difficult because you can't really strategize with the computer player. You know, you can't properly manage your inventory, or they'll just like unload a clip of ammo into an enemy in the wrong way and just wasted a bunch of bullets. Or they'll do something like they'll use a healing item when you didn't want them to. So because of that, I did start with 2 players, had a lot of fun with it, then tried a few hours just by myself, and it was just too difficult, so I put it down, and I'm going to wait until I have an opportunity to play it with somebody else again. But whenever you are playing single player, you can switch between the 2 characters, and you will have to, because the way that the game works is that the different students have different abilities. Like, one guy is strong, so he can push big things, while another person can, like, hack doors or simple computer systems. One person's good at investigating stuff, and one person can jump really high, so you do have to end up switching back and forth, kind of like, I guess, Resident Evil 0. Obviously not nearly as well polished as a Resident Evil game or other survival horror games, but this one is pretty unique. So if you're somebody who's into B horror movies or B-level games in the horror genre, you know, they're kind of cheesy, they're not really perfectly well made, they have issues, then, you know, this might be for you. It's available on PS2 and PSP and Steam, I think, but the Wii version is probably the most affordable physical copy that you can get. So if you are a big survival horror fan, maybe you want to check this out. So thanks for watching part 2. That's it for new games that I'm going to be playing this year. I'm going to be playing a few of these to kind of finish them off as time goes on. But overall, that's it. That's a wrap. I do hope to do another video where I kind of talk about the challenge and the year and how it went as a whole. But there won't be any new review-style videos like this. All I'll say for now is thanks for coming on this journey with me. Thanks for watching this video. This has been SilverMongooseVideos, and remember, classic gaming never gets old.